Welcome to How To with NADTC, where we tackle your big challenges in small doses. In today's episode, we're going to hear from Ken Thompson on how to engage in effective and interactive communication to ensure your system has a process in place to effectively discuss reasonable modifications, resolve ADA accessibility issues, and ultimately make your service stronger. Ken is the Technical Assistance Director for Easter Seals and the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center. We're so excited to welcome Ken to the series.
Welcome. This learning short will provide you with the tips on the importance of providing effective and interactive communication between you and your riders with disabilities. Disabilities can affect how a person communicates, either in expressing a message, such as speaking, receiving a message, such as hearing, or both. You want to have a strategy and process that makes the communication process work for you and your riders when handling reasonable modification to policy requests, resolving complaints, or exploring mobility options and transportation services. Let's get started with our presentation. What is effective communication? The ADA requires effective communication, which means whatever is written or spoken must be as clear and understandable to people with disabilities as it is for people who do not have disabilities. Each person is unique, and effects of disabilities on communication varies greatly by the individual and by the situation. And for example, consider verbal communication in a noisy environment. Difficult for any of us. However, for a person with a hearing loss, understanding spoken word in that noisy environment can be more challenging, and that even includes if they have a hearing aid. So situations can vary on what communication is effective. And just remember, effective communication is required by the ADA. So why do we do this? Well, effective communication is needed for us for getting information on reasonable modification of policy requests, for getting facts and information around incidents, for getting follow-up information around whatever issue we're discussing, for resolution of a complaint, and for remedy or resolution of a problem. So in all of these situations, it is important to get clear and accurate information using the method of communication preferred by the rider. It is very important to document these conversations and interactions to create a record and history of communications that will assist you throughout this process. So that writing of the record and keeping notes and information will give you a history so that you can refer to that as you work through different points in those issues. Just remember, too, that preferred communication methods may vary by the situation, and we'll talk a little bit more on that. So how is it provided? Various aids and/or services must be used to provide effective communications for people with disabilities. Consult with the individual to determine what method or support is needed for communication. Just remember, effective communication is individualized. The individual will let you know what is their preferred way for communication, and even communication in different situations. So here's some examples. Types of communication. Well, it could be verbal, simply verbal by phone. That could be preferred. It could be the telephone relay service, and that's where someone's doing basically a teletype or text telephone communication. Some people prefer written in large print or font. In large print and font could be anywhere from a font of 14, 18, 20, or even bigger. So it would be up to the person what font works for them in written communication. There have been situations where someone says, hey, in person, I would rather just sit down and talk with you. And there are situations where a person prefers to do that dialogue so that they can see you and respond to you to have effective communication. For other people, video communication is fine. And setting that up and having a sort of an online on-screen discussion. And other people with different communication disabilities, and including deaf issues or hearing issues, video relay service could be the way where the communication would be carried out. Some people, email is fine. Other people will say, hey, email is something I don't have or I don't use often, I don't like, and they'll let you know. Other people will say, hey, just text me the information, text me a link. They say, I respond to text because it's more immediate. And that's part of what I see when I'm on my phone. So send me a text. Some people say, hey, let's communicate. I have a communication assistant. That's another person that assists the person in communicating with another. It could be someone that's part of their family, but it also could be someone that they bring in and sometimes hire to be part of the assisting with the communication. And then finally, some people use a communication device, and that's usually a piece of equipment that generates speech or assists in providing a way that someone can put together a verbal message through a device. Sometimes it's a phone, sometimes it's a separate device, but it generates a speech type of message for communication. So you want to ask that individual for their preferred method of communication. And as I show you in these examples, sometimes the type of communication can vary depending on the circumstance or situation. All right, promote discussion. So yes, even if you're having communication, promote discussion to make sure that it is interactive. And being interactive, of course, is how we promote that discussion. So there's a back and forth. Use effective communication strategy, meaning that you work with the person and focus on the ways that communication can be effective with them, and engage with that person in a communication manner of their choosing. And that will come through when you discuss communication with the person. When communication is verbal, it also includes a receptive component that is listening. But likewise, written communication includes a receptive component that is reading, and sometimes listening and reading require a ability to get feedback onto whether the way that I'm listening to the person is effective for me, or the way they're listening to me is effective to them. So you want to get that feedback to make sure that the communication is clear. Both expressive communication and receptive communication must be effective for both sides of the communication. And simply asking if a person understands a response may not reveal if they have concerns or need more information or explanation. So you want to discuss particular elements of the issue to promote engagement and interaction, and then allow time for processing of information for discussion. And similarly, reading document and understanding some of the various points in that document can be two very different outcomes, because someone says, yes, I read it, but understanding may require more discussion. And some people have questions at the first reading, but at other times, people need additional time to process what is written and then to generate their questions later. Strategies when in verbal conversation. Remember to emphasize the person, not the disability. Use person-first language and keep that in mind. Speak clearly with normal tone and speed. Talk directly to the person, not to the companion. Communication is always with the individual. Be an effective listener and use affirming responses. And affirming responses is a way that you engage with a person to show that, yes, I understand what you're saying. Verbal communication also includes strategies. Conversations actually include strategies for successful communication. Addressing the person by name is a preferred strategy to promote personalization in the conversation. And when you can, the name, as you discuss different issues and bring that up, shows that you're engaged with the person. Use normal respect and courtesy in conversation. And by using normal respect, it promotes open conversation and interactive communication. Privacy and sensitivity, another big issue. Avoid having specific discussion on disability details. The issue is that you want to stick to the issues at hand. So disability details, medical issues should not be discussed. Stay with the relevant facts, and then disability details that are not relevant should be avoided. And then focus, as you discussed, on the best way to assist and accommodate the person in the communication as you move on. And that's the most sensitive way to carry out this communication. Specifics on disabilities, just remember, aren't always relevant. So unless the person brings up certain issues, and unless you really need that information in that interaction, those other specifics do not need to be brought up. All right, follow up. Even though you've had your conversation, you got your information, that doesn't necessarily mean that this conversation has ended. Ask if any additional assistance is needed. How can we assist you better? Continue to be open to discussion, even when a solution is found, because sometimes people have other information to bring to you after that conversation. And then for some people, they may need additional support and additional information, and that is helpful to the individual. So ensure that all needs are met as you kind of follow up and wrap up the conversation. So it's not really done at the moment of formalizing, say, hey, yeah, we've got our information, we've kind of wrapped this up. But afterwards, an individual may need additional information and support. So you want to be there. So follow-up includes continuing to engage with the person in communication in a way that is effective. So, all right. Anyway, that's all I have. I want to thank you. I hope these tips of effective and interactive communication will assist you in creating a process that works for you and your riders. Resources for assistance include the ADA National Network. You can call them at 800-949-4232. And that connects you to one of 10 regional ADA centers for guidance and assistance. It's all things ADA, but also anything around accessibility. They will be there willing to help you. And of course, you can contact us at the NADTC. Contact us at 866-983-3222 or email us at contact@nadtc.org. And of course, keep going to our website to get updates and information, www.nadtc.org. Again, thank you and appreciate your your participation.
Thank you for watching this episode of How To with NADTC. We hope you found this information valuable and practical. Be sure to check out our other episodes in this series for more helpful tips.